All right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to give you the problem now and we're going to work through it. And I want to remind you that I picked a problem that's going to require a little bit of some algebra skills being demonstrated. So I'll ask you to do something similar on a quiz on Thursday, all right? So let's take a look at this. We're asked to find the number c. That's guaranteed by the mean value theorem for this function, f of x equals the square root of x minus 2 on the interval, closed interval, 2 to 4. So one of the things we've got to do is, first of all, we got to recognize, we got to figure out we got to find what the slope is of that sequent line that's going through the line that goes through 2 at x equals 2 and x equals 4. So in other words, we got to figure out the slope at f of 4 minus f of 2 over 4 minus 2. All right, and that is, the circumstance is that we've got, let me just plug this into the function then. That gives us the square root of 4 minus 2 minus the square root of 2 minus 2 over 4 minus 2 equals the square root of 2 minus the square root of 0 over 2. And that's 0 up there, so that ends up being just square root of 2 over 2. So m equals the square root of 2 over 2 for the secant line that goes through 2 and 4. The points on the graph, 2 and 4. So what we've got to do is find the derivative of the function and set it equal to this slope and solve for x. Figure out what x will give us this slope, all right? So the idea is what we got to do is take the derivative. If we know f of x is equal to x minus 2 to the 1/2, right? Then we know that f prime of x has to equal, here's a little derivative opportunity for you. We got to use the chain rule because it's on a function, and we got a fraction up there, so we got to bring the fraction down front, get 1/2, x minus 2 stays, subtract 1 up in the exponent, and you get minus 1/2. Chain rule, derivative of that inside the parentheses is 1. So there's nothing more to write. That is it. So let's rewrite this without the negative exponent and with a radical instead. So I get 1 over 2 is on the bottom, and I've got a square root of x minus 2 on the bottom. Okay? So there is our derivative. Now we set that derivative equal to the slope of that we calculated up above, and we'll solve for the x that gives us that value. So a little algebra skill is going to be needed here. So 1 over 2 squared of x minus 2 equals the square root of 2 over 2. Before I dive into it, stop and think to yourself, what would you do to solve this? What would the algebra would you do to solve it? Stop and think, try it. Okay, the x is in the denominator. So we've got to get it upstairs somehow. And the easiest way to do that is to do the cross multiplication thing. If we, multiply top and bottom on the right side and multiply top and bottom on the left side by 2 and the right side by the denominator of the other one, we'll get cancellations and stuff. And all you have to do is cross multiply and you get the solution for that. So when I'm not going to put an equal sign here, I'm going to put an arrow that indicates the next equality that we're going to talk about. If I move it up top, I'm going to multiply, cross multiply, I get 2 times 1. And on this side, I get the square root of 2 times the denominator over there, which is 2 times the square root of x minus 2. There, that is our solution. And now we've got to solve for x. So first thing is, I can see we can get rid of this 1 and just make it 2. And I'll write it like this. 2 square root of 2 times the square root of x minus 2. Let's get rid of the 2's. We can divide each side by 2. So I get 1 equals, 2's gone, square root of 2 times the square root of x minus 2. Now, since they've got 2 radicals being multiplied together, we could multiply that 2 times x minus 2 underneath the radical, but let's just keep it simple. I'm just going to square each side. That gives me 1 squared, which is 1. Then I'm going to square and square root of 2. That gives me 2. I'm going to square the square root of x minus 2. That gives me x minus 2. Then I'm going to multiply this out. And then add 4 to each side. Therefore, x equals 5 over 2, which is 2.5. And notice that it is between 2 and 4 on that number line. You could also go through the trouble of plugging that into the derivative and make sure you do get square root of 2 over 2. But the main thing is right now, I want you to just go through the process of solving that out, figuring that out, and seeing that that's how you do it. I will ask you to do something similar on a little bit of an assessment on Thursday, okay? So that's basically it, finding the C that is guaranteed by the mean value theorem for a function between 2 points, and that is what we did there, okay? So I wish you well. I'll talk to you a little bit later about something from section 4.4 that I'll also include this week, all right? So what I'll do right now